right, I'm Chris Avina with American Outdoor News, and today we have Sheriff Mark Lamb. He's a regular on Live PD, and he's a regular contributor to Fox News and Newsmax. Mark, thanks for coming on. Appreciate your time.
No problem. Thanks for having me. And just a clarification, because there's going to be a lot of people out there going to be like, wait, when did Live PD come back? I was on Live PD. Live PD was canceled last year, and so still waiting to see what's going to happen.
Yeah,
but I am a regular on American Sheriff Network.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about American Sheriff Network?
Yeah, you know, when they took off Live PD and cops off the air, we saw a real need. I mean, they started setting the narrative, and we no longer were getting our narrative out there. So I looked around, tried to find some different people that were interested in doing something, and finally we just started our own thing. And we just did it so that we can give law enforcement a voice and show the good work that the men and women that put on this badge every day do, and show them the respect that they deserve. So americansheriff.com is where you can see it. It is a subscription site. We did it so they couldn't cancel us. And we also, we don't have any ads on there, so you can just watch it ad free.
Okay, and that basically encompasses your day-to-day, just like cops or Live PD.
Yeah, we've tried to do the ride-along piece, but then we've also tried to highlight the sheriffs. We've also tried to highlight the beautiful parts of their counties. And then really more than anything is we're telling the stories of the men and women that put on the badge every day.
Well, I come from a law enforcement family. My dad, my uncle, my cousin, they were all on the job. Probably 80% of my friends are on the job or in the process of retiring, because
yeah,
got a very difficult task these days, and it's not very popular.
Yes, it is. Yep.
Well, it was nice to see Minneapolis.
Yeah, I know. I saw that last night.
Come on. They really going to vote on disbanding the police? What are they going to call social services when somebody breaks into their house?
The reality is that vote was closer than it should have been. I mean, it should have been an 80-20 vote or a 70-30 vote, but you know, at least they got it right.
Now, you've been around. I mean, you grew up in Hawaii. You lived in the Philippines, Panama, Argentina. You really bounced around. How does that affect your the way you look at immigration today?
I think it has a huge effect on how I've lived my life and how I view immigration. Look, I grew up a minority. I lived in other countries, and I understand why people want to come to America. I don't have a problem with people coming to America to make a better life for themselves. As a matter of fact, I'd love to see people do it. We just have to follow the process that Congress and Senate has put in place. That's all we ask. You know, I think people think if you want to protect your borders, you're immediately a racist or something else. And that's just not the truth. Like, I care. I understand. I've lived in those countries. I've been a minority. I have a deep love of America myself. Here's what it's about, though. I tell people all the time, this isn't about immigration. This is about human trafficking and drug trafficking into America. And if you care about human beings like people claim to do, then you should absolutely care about border security, because human beings are being abused by the cartel on a daily basis. They're raping the women. They're using the children as pawns, and oftentimes abusing and stealing those children. And then they're extorting the men and forcing them to carry drugs. And then we get into the whole drug piece of what's coming into America and how it's affecting American lives. That is what border security means to me. And it affects every one of us and every one of our families. And I feel a responsibility to do it and to deal with it. So, yeah, I mean, that's what it means to me. And so it has had a huge impact of coming from those other countries.
So how come we don't see in the media how much drugs are being confiscated, how many guns are being confiscated, or highlighting people and children being abused coming across our border? How come we don't see that in the media?
Well, it doesn't fit their narrative. I mean, this is most of the mainstream media doesn't want to talk about it. Now you have Fox, you have Newsmax, OAN, Real America News. I go on those stations or networks a lot to talk about it, and they will talk about it. But you know, your mainstream media, majority of them don't want to touch it because it just doesn't fit their narrative. and they've become political in nature, which is sad to see. They're not supposed to. They're supposed to hold both sides in check, keep it honest, let the people know what's going on, but they've become political, and now nobody trusts them.
Well, everything that we saw during the Trump administration with the left down at the border crying about people in cages and whatnot, it's literally quadrupled, and they're nowhere to be found.
Yeah, it's probably more than quadrupled, and like you said, there's nowhere to be found. I can take you to 100 spots in my desert that are littered with camouflage clothes and water jugs and carpet shoes and backpacks. Where's the environmental people?
Mhm.
Where they're not saying a dadgum thing. Once again, it just shows that politics plays out over with those people more than anything. That's all they care about. They care about pushing their power and their party and their politics and shoving the American people's head into whatever food they want us to eat, or whatever nonsense they want us to take into our lives.
Now, if anybody's actually driven down to Mexico through Arizona, you're a border state. It's desert. It's rough walking across that border. I mean, you must find people barely alive coming across that border.
Well, especially in the summer, we'll spend the majority of our time in the summer doing 911 calls. So if you're in the desert and you call 911, let's say on the reservation that's south of my county,
Mhm.
that is actually going to go to Border Patrol in those remote areas. And so when that happens, the cartel will do it on purpose. First of all, they'll say, hey, we're going to leave you behind. You're not doing good. They'll call and say, hey, we left this guy behind. Or they'll just leave him behind and let him die. Either way, we usually try to go find him. And we spend a lot of resources, a lot of money, a lot of time trying to save people. And no, you don't ever see the media talking about that. We had one guy where we got a call, they left a guy behind. And while they left him behind, 10 to 20 more people are already continue walking towards our communities. But we found this guy, we used our helicopter, flew in, finally found him. We had to give him 3 bags of IV. And while we were doing that, there were 7 more 911 calls on the board for lost or injured or left behind smugglers. Arizona, I think, has had almost 60 dead bodies recovered this year. There's one county in Texas that just asked the people to stop calling if they find a dead body because it's costing them $20,000 per body for overtime, manpower, investigating it. Wow. And these are small little counties that just don't have the resources. They're literally going broke over trying to recover these people that the cartel has left for dead.
So what about in this new infrastructure bill for people who were separated? The Biden administration wants to give these people $450,000 for coming to a country illegally, getting free medical, getting free housing, getting free food, and we're going to give them a $450,000 welcome package on top of that. What do you think of that?
I think it's asinine. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I mean, why not secure our borders first and foremost? We have American families that are suffering, American businesses that are suffering. Now we're putting our first responders, our nurses, we're putting them out of jobs because you want them to get the vaccine. All the while, you're talking about giving $450,000 to a family that probably doesn't even know how to manage $450,000, that are likely going to send that money right back to the country they came from and not put it into the economy that we need it to be in here. I mean, it is the dumbest thing I've heard, and that alone should kill the infrastructure bill. It's 2,500 pages long. Can you imagine what kind of ridiculousness and asinine things like this that are in that?
I think we should light it on fire and start over again.
I think they should just do nothing. Don't do anything until we can come in there and fix it.
This is another Obamacare where we got to vote it in to find out what's in it.
Mm-hmm. This is Obama 3.0. This is there's no question. It has his stink all over it. A lot of the things that are happening in this country.
Now, I know you find a lot of people coming across the border being trafficked, a ton of drugs coming across. What about guns? Has that been a major problem?
So guns you get every now and then. Sometimes the cartel coyotes will have guns. In the area we're in, typically they don't want problems with law enforcement, so they don't always carry guns. But we have rip crews. We have drug dealers from Phoenix that will come down into the deserts and try to rip off the other crews bringing the drugs and the people in. And when they do that, sometimes they'll get into gunfights. But just to give you an idea how bad the traffic is, the other day we had one of my deputies was saying he had 7 traffic stops in his shift. All 7 of them had illegal. They were what we call UDA loads, undocumented alien loads. They were all wearing camouflage clothes, carpet shoes, 7 for 7. They average typically at least 3 traffic stops where it involved illegals in the car. And they also have, they've had drugs. We caught a guy the other day that had 52 pounds in a spare tire, and 52 pounds of meth in a spare tire. And he tried to claim that we planted it on there, like as if we carry around an Explorer tire with us with 52 pounds of meth, and then we attach it to your car well after we stop you. I mean, this is the kind of ridiculousness we deal with every day. We just found 20 something pounds of heroin, I think a day before yesterday. So
like I don't believe that they should be get afforded the same abilities of due process that we have here, because, well, we're citizens. They're breaking the law to begin with.
Well, I've always said I think the Constitution applies to Americans. Look, and we do take care of people that come here. I promise you, other countries do not take care of the people that try to come into their country illegally. We do. We take care of those people. But you know what? We also have to take care of Americans. America first should be on the, everybody's mantra. But we have a government in there that is clearly not America first. We are the redheaded stepchild. No offense to any redheads out there, but that's what we've become.
Yeah, we gotta be PC. You're sliding the redheads. It's crazy. Now, as a police officer, are they mandating that you get vaccinated?
No. Here's the thing about being the sheriff. I was elected by the people to run the agency. There is nobody, not the governor, not the president, not anybody in the county that can mandate us to do the vaccine, because I work for the people and they elected me to do what I need to do in the sheriff's office. And I can assure you, I will never mandate the vaccine.
Well, I'm pretty sure the people coming across the border undocumented are not vaccinated.
Well, not only are they not vaccinated, they just passed all the Democrats in Congress voted to not mandate the vaccine for those people. And look, that's right. Don't mandate the vaccine. You shouldn't mandate the vaccine for anybody. But if you're going to mandate the vaccine for your police officers and your nurses, all of them said no to a vaccine mandate. So if that doesn't tell you that all this is political BS and political theater, we better wake up, America.
Well, last year we were celebrating them, giving them parades and putting them up on a pedestal, and this year we're firing them because they don't want to go along with their narrative. That's, Well,
let me propose something to you. Last year they talked about defunding the police, but that went over like a lead balloon. It was a stinker. They realized. I even listened to an interview where Obama was talking about how they used the wrong terminology. He didn't say that he didn't like it. Now look at what's happening now. They probably went back to a think tank, had some people say, hey, look, we can defund the police without defunding the police. Let's do a vaccine mandate, and 20 to 30% of your force will actually resign or you can fire them because they didn't get the vaccine. And really what they've done is defund our police without defunding our police. Americans should open their eyes to that too.
Yeah, police are retiring in droves. They put in their time. They're done. You are in the most difficult time in our country's history to be a police officer.
But I will tell you that the majority, I go a lot of places and look, 70 to 80% of the people out there, and it's growing every day, support and love the police. It's just that small percentage. The mainstream media pushes that small voice out there that are anti-police. But the reality is the majority of Americans still support and love their police. Look, Minnesota, which is jacked up right now, or Minneapolis, they still voted to support their police. So, I mean, it's a false narrative that the mainstream media is pushing out there. I can assure the American people that the majority of Americans across this country still support police, and they should, because the rule of law is one of the most important things in America.
I agree. Rule of law and the government overreach is just getting out of control. Now, I read somewhere that last year during the height of the George Floyd protests and whatnot, you were organizing or wanted to organize a civilian posse. Can you tell me a little bit about that and how that would?
Oh yeah. No, I did. We had a lot of people calling us, and we were working on this actually before, what happened in Minnesota. So it wasn't something that spurred that on. We could feel it coming. I could feel it bubbling over long before that. So we decided to start a citizens posse. Now, the citizens posse, the sheriff, my job is to suppress any affrays, insurrections, riots that come to my attention. It also says that I can command as many inhabitants of the county as I deem necessary to accomplish my mission. That is within the Constitution, within my powers and authorities as the sheriff. And so should the sky fall, should the floods come, should whatever, a major riot, I may need the assistance of some of our citizens. And so what I thought would behoove us is to educate these people as much as we can. We talk about the Constitution. We talk about all these things. Now, I have a patrol posse, guys that go out and assist my deputies every day. This is an inactive piece. We just train them. We give them some education. We run them through some scenarios so that in the case of an emergency, I can feel at least comfortable knowing that I've trained these people at least somewhat. But, the idea is that I would never have to use my civilian posse, and that no storms will come. People immediately think of riots. Look, we have fires, we have storms, we have all sorts of things that are issues that tax our resources to the max. I'm limited on what kind of resources I have. And I'll tell you, the Citizens Posse has been great. Tons of people signed up. They love it. It's been going good.
So it's basically a militia.
No, it's a civilian posse. Like the sheriff doesn't do militias. The sheriff has a posse.
It's like a community watch.
Yeah, well, I have a community watch as well. I think it's important that you educate your community. I've had people on the left, on the right, I've had critics come out and see exactly what we're doing, and every one of them understands it better. What is wrong with educating your civilians as to what the Constitution is, what the law says you can and can't do, what your sheriff's office or your police department is capable of? I think this is important information and education to give to your people, and everybody, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, who has come to the class has seen the value of it and the importance of keeping your population up to speed.
Now, you have a rehabilitation program as well.
I have a few of them. Yeah, we do a tattoo removal. We have a veterans program. I have a youth redirection program to catch them on the front end. We have lots of different programs, great programs. I am as conservative as they come, but I also understand that I have a responsibility to return a better product to the community than what I got. And so I will oftentimes find programs that work so that the people have a better chance of having success once they leave my facility.
So pro-action and education is paramount.
Absolutely. Yep.
That's, hey, community involvement, keeping them aware, keeping them educated of the topics of the day. That's only going to make your job a hell of a lot easier.
Amen.
Now, prior to law enforcement, I mean, you've had a pretty celebrated career. Detective of the Year, Rookie of the Year. It seems like you just go all out for whatever you're doing. You were in the private sector. You own businesses. What coerced you to give that up and go into law enforcement?
That's a great question. I appreciate the kind words. I never thought about being a cop. Not growing up, not when I was an adult. Never thought about being a police officer. My neighbor, who was a cop on an Indian reservation, one day, I had my own businesses. At the time, I had a pest control type business, and my neighbor said, "Hey, would you be interested in going on a ride along?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll go." So I did a graveyard shift on that ride along. One of the calls that we went on was a guy who found a 20-year-old boy with his 14-year-old girl. They got into a little altercation. The guy runs out the back. I show up and he lets me out of the car, and I'm out there armed with the flashlight and courage. And we're out looking behind the desert area. We see this little travel trailer. I look in the travel trailer, and in there's just clothes and trash. But I see what I think is about a quarter size of skin under all that. And so I tell the guys, I'm like, "Hey, man, I think he's right here." So they go in there and they just yank this dude out, put him on the ground, cuff him up. And we were able to go back and tell that dad that we caught this kid. And I'll tell you, I came home that morning. I woke my wife up and I said, "Hey, I'm going to be a cop." And within 6 months, I was in the academy. Like you said, when I do go out, I go all out. So I believe that this life is too short. You got to be the best that you can be at everything you do, and give it hell.
So basically, you really stayed in the same business. You're in pest control still.
Yeah, I mean, look, yeah, exactly. That's true. That's true. I never left it.
It's it's commendable giving
Thank you.
giving up something in the private sector to really dedicate your life to something higher, a higher purpose.
I appreciate it, but I love this profession. I do think it's a key component to keeping America, the America that we know and love. I think that our ability to maintain our freedom is all based on our ability to have a strong rule of law. So these are things that I love and I'm passionate about. And for me, I don't even hesitate to go out and be part of protecting what we love and protecting this country.
Now you have a book out as well.
Yeah, it's called American Sheriff: Traditional Values in a Modern World. My wife and I both decided to write books. Hers is called The Sheriff's Wife: Holding It All Together Behind the Scenes in Politics. You can get both our books at sheriffswife.com, or you can get them on Amazon as well. If you do sheriffswife.com, then we'll actually sign them and send them out to you. And then you can also get the book at americansheriff.com, where we have our American Sheriff Network. So
that's great. That actually gives a lot of insight to what your family is about, because people just see you on the front line, but just like military families, the wife and kids sacrifice as much as the men on the front line.
Right. That's right. And, I wanted to give people hope that life is tough. Like, life is going to challenge you. Life's going to beat you up, especially the more you challenge life will push back. But it makes you stronger. It makes you better. And hopefully when the people read the book, they realize it's okay to love America. It's okay to have successes and failures. You're going to survive them. We all have our challenges. There is nobody that's perfect, and there is nobody that has a perfect life. And in the end, it's really about what kind of attitude you have, and that's going to determine what kind of life you have. And so hopefully that's what people take away from our books, and see that we're just regular people trying to do great things.
Well, what should we look forward to? What do we have coming up?
I hope to write another book. I'm working on a book about leadership right now. But hopefully we have to look forward to is a better America tomorrow. Look, we've got to make some changes in this country. I think Virginia is setting the pace right now. New Jersey looks like they might have change. So, I mean, look, there's some good things happening. And I think next year is going to be a strong rebuking from the American people to the elites in this country who think they're better than we are and who are running this country into the ground. And let's hope those people that are getting put in here have America first and America's best interest in mind.
Couldn't agree more. I think we need to remind people that every voice does need to be heard. So especially with social media, don't be afraid to voice your opinion, put it out there, as far as our First Amendment right, our Second Amendment right, our immigration systems. Make your voice heard.
Absolutely.
If you want to sit back and listen to what the news is going to tell you, you're going to fall right into their narrative. And, we are not in the minority. We're the majority.
No. So, amen to that.
So just keep on slugging and make your voice heard. That's all I got to say on that.
Yep, I agree.
All right. I appreciate your time. And go to America Sheriff Network. Check that out. Take a look at your books. And thanks again. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it, brother. Thank you. And God bless all of you.